In the year 1614, a woman painted a hand gripping a knife. She was not just imagining pain. She had lived through pain like that herself. Her name was Artemisia Gentileschi, and she was one of the best painters of her time. For almost 300 years, people hung this painting under her father's name instead of hers. Some called it a copy of his work. It was never a copy. It was her own idea, made with her own hands. 2 years before she painted this, she went to court. She spoke for 7 months against the man who hurt her in a room full of strangers who did not believe her at first. In the end, the court hurt her too, just to check if she was telling the truth. By the end of this video, you will know whose face she painted onto that blade. You will also learn why it took 300 years for anyone to say her real name out loud. By age 15, she could already paint better than most grown men in her father's workshop. Her hands were steady. She understood light in a way few people her age ever do. Her father, Orazio, was a painter too, and he ran a busy workshop full of students and helpers. But even next to grown men who had trained for years, she stood out. People paid for her work. They did not ask whose daughter she was. They just wanted the painting. But that is not the part of her story most people know. Open most art history books, and her name barely shows up. If it shows up at all, it is a small note under someone else's story. A girl who was talented, but never seen as her own person. For hundreds of years, museums and writers treated her like a side character in her own life. Here is what most books leave out. Before she turned 18, she was already paid for a big project. Paid in her own name, not her father's. A client trusted a teenage girl to finish real, important work, and she delivered it. That fact gets left out a lot because it does not fit the story people like to tell about her. But that same year, something happened inside her father's workshop, something the official record tried hard to hide. Hiding it took real effort because other people saw it happen, and some of them would later be asked to talk about it in public. The man who continued teaching her was her father's friend, Agostino Tassi. He was a well-known painter, and many people respected his work. Her father believed he would be a good teacher and trusted him to help Artemisia grow as an artist. She looked up to him and expected to learn from his experience. But instead of honoring that trust, he betrayed it and hurt her deeply. What happened next was not just a court case. Artemisia had to answer many questions. The court also hurt her hands with a painful metal tool to see if she was telling the truth. She had to stay strong while she spoke. But Agostino did not have to go through the same pain. He only had to say that he was innocent. She kept telling the truth anyway for 7 months, through all of that pain. He was found guilty in the end. Her exact words from that trial still exist today, written down by hand at the time. Almost no one outside of history classes has ever actually read them. 2 years later, she picked up a paintbrush again, and she gave her answer in the one language people back then were finally ready to sit still and hear, even if they never called it that out loud. The painting called Judith Slaying Holofernes is not just a Bible story. Plenty of other painters had tried the same scene before her. It is the closest thing to a confession she was ever allowed to share in public. For many years, experts looked at how much force is in this painting and called it too much. Too strong, not ladylike enough. Some even said a woman could not have painted something this violent on her own, as if being quiet was supposed to be the whole point of being a woman who paints. Look closer, though, and that force is not a mistake at all. Many experts now believe the man's face in the painting is the face of the man who hurt her. She decided exactly how much power the two women in the painting would have over him. Even the grip of their hands was her choice. Every detail in that scene was something she chose on purpose. That kind of control over her own story and her own image is the one thing 300 years of silence could never fully erase. It stayed right there on the canvas, waiting for someone to actually look. So, if she wrote her own true story right into the paint, here is the real question. Why did it take the rest of the world 300 years to actually notice? The painting never moved. The people looking at it did. For most of that time, this same painting had her father's name written on it in museum records. Not because people were confused about who painted it, because giving credit to a woman was seen as bad for a collection's value, and a lower price tag was easier to accept than the truth. It took real history experts looking through old papers and old letters well into the 20th century to fix that mistake. They finally gave the painting back to the woman who had already signed it in every single brushstroke, even if not on the surface itself. It should never have taken that long. She had already signed her own story, the only way she was ever allowed to. The people writing the records just decided that was not good enough. It took the rest of the world 3 centuries to agree that it was. The knife in her painting never needed a caption to explain it. It is the rest of us who needed 300 years to catch up. And she was not the last woman this happened to. 60 years later, in another city, another artist's name was scraped right off a real canvas. A man's name was painted in its place instead. That story is next.